Right, okay. I think I might get started now. Can I just ask you both just to keep an eye on the lobby and let people in as they join? Great, okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Again, thank you for taking the time to join us for our October webinar. Hope everybody is keeping well. Before we get started on our agenda for today, we're just going to go over a bit of housekeeping. So today's session is being recorded and will be shared with all registrants later this week. So if you'd like to share the recording with a colleague who was unable to attend, or if you'd like to revisit any of the content we covered in today's session, you can. A copy of the slides and also the Q&A will be sent over to everyone later this week or next week as well. The audio for this session is available through your computer speaker or by dialing in by phone. So if you experience poor sound quality at any time through your computer speakers, you may wish to try dialing in to the session by phone instead. This can be done by accessing your device settings in the top of your screen within the Teams session. Just click the three dots for more settings, then select device settings, and a device settings area will open on your right-hand side. Participants will remain muted throughout the session. However, there's a chat area which can also be accessed via the top of your screen within Teams. We'll be monitoring this throughout the session, so please submit any questions or comments you may have anytime, and there'll also be an open Q&A at the end. Right, now to introduce your presenters for this webinar. So as always, you're joined by me. So my name is Cameron. I'm a customer support advisor at CLA. Also here with us today, we have Stephen, who is a fellow customer support advisor at CLA. He'll be keeping an eye on the chat box for any questions that might come through. Also joined by Imogen, who is a senior product manager here at CLA, looking after the DCS. And we're also joined by Sarah Breer, who is our education development manager here at CLA. Right, now time for our agenda. So we're going to start off with some DCS product updates from Imogen. She's going to be going over some more information about Born Digital and also the coming cleanup with DCS data. Then Sarah is going to talk about making the most of your CLA license. And then I'm going to round off with some frequently asked questions about the DCS, and we'll end with an open Q&A. Right, so I'm now going to pass over to Imogen. Imogen, if you'd like to take over sharing your screen, yeah, we can go from there.
And of course I have to unmute, yes. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. What's happening in the DCS? Well, first up, we are in the process of another content load for more Born Digital content. So currently we have about, I think it's about 155,000 titles. We're in the process of loading a little over 135,000 more. So that's going to almost double the repository to, so shortly we should have well over 280,000 titles. So that's a massive, massive data load, and it's in progress at the moment. In fact, one of my jobs today is to continue testing the load, so it is very much in progress. What are we getting? Well, there's 10 publishers have given us material. You can see the number of titles that went into the funnel there. Not all of them make it through onto the site, but roughly this is the numbers that we've got. Very different. So the vast majority are from Taylor and Francis. There's one from Pearson. They actually did give us a lot more, but one of the changes from this load to previous ones is that we are being a little bit more discerning about what we load. So we're trying to make sure that there's a relevance to the titles on there as well. So, for example, Pearson is a good example. They gave us loads of titles, actually, but the vast majority were things like the Bug Club, which is primary reading, and things that just really weren't appropriate for your needs for the kind of academic field. So just to say, hopefully everything that's going on there, you'll find, well, will be of use to some of you. I am testing this week. We should hopefully have them live by the end of the month. So there'll be lots more Born Digital coming soon. Okay, next is our data hygiene. So this is a recurring topic. We've been talking about it since long before I joined, but we are now at the point of action, basically. So as a quick recap, DCS started, it was a nice, simple system. We had minimal amounts of data on it. Everything ran very nicely, very smoothly. Apologies. now over time we've added on bits and bobs. We've got APIs, we've got loads more users, we mix things up, and it's all just doing a lot more. And we need to try and make sure that it's running as simply as it used to. So one of the solutions for this is to try and clean out some of the data that's not necessarily being used, because it's making it run very, very slowly. When I met with many of you when I first joined over the kind of spring, summer, I was asking about exactly this and how can we clean up data? What can we take away? What are your concerns? And the main things that you talked about were definitely not deleting the scans, which, I mean, the scans are the repository, which is the DCS. So yes, I understand that. Concern around links breaking if we delete things, because as you carry things over, are there connections that would disappear? You were talking about concern about courses which don't run every year, so you archive and then maybe they run every second year, or you don't have enough students every year, so maybe after 3 years you've got enough students again, so it would run. So being able to resurrect courses, making sure that students have access to links after their first year of study. So for example, students in first year can still access the links in their second, third year. And then there was a lot of people talking about accessing data for record keeping. So for example, SLT asking for sort of longitudinal data. So these were the things that we were looking at when we were trying to decide what to do. What are we going to do? Well, the intention at the moment is to delete data that is older than 3 full academic years. So this would be from November. We will send an email as well with the exact date that we'll start, but from November, we will start to do this. And essentially the content requests and the courses from academic year 2019 and 20 and earlier, we will move to deleted in the DCS. So how does that relate to the concerns that you had? Oh, sorry, first of all, just to clarify, this is definitely not the scans. The scans will remain in the repository. This is the data around the requests, the data around the courses, not the scans. And we will not touch academic years 2020, 21 and onwards. So these 4 academic years will remain 3 full, and this current academic year will remain. So in terms of your concerns, yeah, we won't touch the scans. They will be fine. In terms of links, yeah, we can't break the links. I don't yet have the technical answer as to why we won't, but we will obviously, that's critical for the developers when they're working out how to do it. Links have to remain active. For everyone I spoke to who talked about resurrecting courses after a number of years, generally it was after sort of 2 years, occasionally 3. And I don't think I spoke to anybody who thought that they might resurrect a course after a longer period than 3 years, as it was. You all said, you know, to be fair, after then we'd probably have to reload it anyway because the course would have changed a lot and we'd have different readings on it. So I think that this meets what you've told me you need. So hopefully that's okay. There was a lot of people expressed concern about students needing to have access to links for their full course. Now, for English undergraduate, obviously that's 3 years. So there's no worry that what we're going to do will affect it. But for example, medical courses might be 6 years. So just to say, for students to access a link, the link has to be on an active course anyway. So deleting things that are not active and haven't been for 3 years shouldn't affect students being able to access old links. I hope that makes sense. In other words, don't worry, that should be fine. And then finally, data going back many years. I mean, at the moment, we cannot run a longitudinal report for you. You have to download the HEIs and put that together in the way that you need it. So we will see if we can retain the HEI reporting facility. But regardless, I would suggest that you start storing your HEI reports for older years on file so that you've got them to go to as and when you need them. Maybe you also want the downloads per content item, some of the other reports, but I would suggest that over the next month, if you just download anything that you think that you might need going forward and store it on file. Given that we are unable to pull off a report that crosses academic years anyway, I don't think it'll make a massive difference to the way that you would process those. So what will you need to do? Well, nothing, actually. We'll do that at our end. So the CLA will do the cleanup. And as I say, if you do want to download reports, then yes, go ahead and do that. We will be sending out an email. Obviously, not everybody comes to the webinar, so we will send out an email with all of this as well. If you do have any concerns, if you're going, then please let me know. You can either put it in the chat, which I haven't looked at to see if anybody's posted anything now. Part-time students take 3 to 6 years to complete a course, says Kate. Yep, that's fine. Basically, if they still need to, in order for a link to be active, the course has to be active. So that, I think, should mean that the links that they need to use will remain. So I think that's okay. If there are any other concerns, please pop them in the chat. We'll try and get to them today. And if you don't have a chance to, then if you contact Cameron and Stephen via In Touch, then we'll make sure that we either come back to you with a response or we take it on board as we work through the development of how we do this. So good. Thank you. Over to Sarah, I think.
Thank you. Thank you, Imogen. Unmuted. Great. And I don't need to share my screen. Presumably, that's all.
It's up to you. I can, if you want to tell me next slide, then I can do that. Otherwise, you can. Yeah, fine.
No, I'll leave it as it is. So hello, everybody. So I'm going to speak for a few minutes about making sure you get the most out of your CLA license, and that might be of more interest to those of you who are quite new to the DCS or are new license coordinators, but I thought I'd cover the ground for everybody. So go back to basics, really. So next slide, please, Imogen, or whoever, Cameron. So first of all, I wanted to reiterate that we are here to help, no matter how small you might feel your question is, or if you think it's something you ought to understand already, or you've already asked about, or you can't find the answer in the support materials but you think you should, please don't worry. Do get in touch with us. We are here to help. So any questions or comments relating specifically to the license, at the moment we have a few different ways that you can get in touch with us, which might be streamlined in the future, but for the moment here are the various addresses. So permissions and education customers, and also the automated form via the education knowledge base, those are all monitored by Margaret generally, who is super friendly and helpful, as many of you will know, and she's supported by various other friendly souls. So please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. I think yes, so if you're not sure if it's a DCS inquiry or it's more of a license inquiry, or that it might be a combination, don't worry, send it to either excuse me, any of the education emails above or to the DCS team In Touch, and we'll take it from there and liaise. So just send the question through and we will deal with it. On to the next one, please. So I thought I'd go through a few examples. I've had a quick chat with Margaret this morning, and some of the things that have come up recently. So I thought I'd go over the US publications issue and check permissions. So we've had a 2 or 3 inquiries lately about the not found results and US publications. So I wanted to just go over that and also revisit the background about this. So if a US publication isn't found, then it's almost certainly not covered under the CLA license. But there might be an occasional circumstance where this isn't right. So it might be a brand new opt-in or potentially a technical blip. So please do feel free to check with us. And it's also really helpful for us to know about uncovered US publications, especially if they come up frequently. They're requested frequently by academics. So just to go back to the US situation, a lot of you might know that CCC, who we have an agreement with for US publications, is a little bit different, well, quite a bit different from all of the other international organizations that we have agreements with. So in the USA, all publications are automatically opted in for photocopying. So you have to, a publisher would have to exclude a publication from photocopying. But for scanning and digital, they're all in together. So for most countries, that they're sort of separate, but for the US, they are both digital publications and material for scanning. Those two rights are lumped in together, and they have to be specifically opted in by the publisher. Now, for the bigger publishers, that's not so much of an issue, but there is a long tail of smaller publishers within the US. Some of them might not even know that they have to opt in, and we have tried to deal with this with a degree of success by increasing the number of global mandates that we sign with various publishers. And we started with the university presses because they do get the situation, and we are putting more resources into that side of things now. So I think that the main way forward is to get more international direct mandates with various publishers, and that means that whatever the country of publication, that item is covered. So to use an example that's probably not very representative, Oxford University Press is an international publisher. We have a global mandate with them, so it doesn't matter what country a publication is published in. If it's an OU publication and it hasn't been excluded, then that is covered. So it could be China, OUP Malaysia, they're all fine unless they've been specifically excluded. But it is also helpful for us to know about these sort of publications, particularly if they do come up again and again. So do let us know in the usual way. I mean, sometimes they get picked up automatically by Margaret via the inquiries, but if there's something that is particularly coming up a lot, do let us know. I know there is an issue, particularly with some of the smaller theological publishers. We can't contact everybody, so we do need to try and gauge a bit more who sort of who is most whose publications are most wanted. So that would be really helpful. And again, please don't hesitate to ask us if you're not sure. So I think that's all on the US issue. Another query that we've had, I think a few times in the past few months, is whether you can, if you get a Born Digital eHAS copy that is not suitable for accessibility needs, so the quality isn't correct, can you make improvements to that? And the answer is yes, you can. This is absolutely fine. You can download, make the improvements that you want, and then re-upload. And I think actually we might put something in the knowledge base about that. So that could be Margaret's next article. So I'll make a note of that afterwards. And then we do get questions about exceptions. And yes, these may apply in certain circumstances, quite limited circumstances, but they are there. So it's a good idea to know about it. Now, CLA can't give advice. We can't give advice on exceptions, but there is some information in our user guidelines. We've got a section on background and context, which I think is on page 5 of the user guidelines on the website, and that was written in conjunction with the CNAT group. Actually, it's quite old now, but I think it's still relevant. And there's also IPO guidance, which I think we linked to in that. So a few examples. There's an disability, an exception regarding disabilities. Well, we do cover accessible copies within the license, but there is also an exception, so you can make that choice. Also, generally speaking, single copies made by students off their own bat for for their personal study related to a course would be covered by exception in general circumstances. But do have a look at the IPO guidance if you're not familiar with exceptions, because it's really good to be aware of the wider situation. There's a wider copyright framework. So it's another tool in the basket, if you like. So I think, yeah, I think so. Yes, the IPO is the Intellectual Property Office. Sorry if I didn't say that. I thought I'd just mention as well copying from digital sources, because this kind of ties in with the Born Digital element. So it's just a reminder, and some of you might not know this, that there is a right that's included in your license, subject to a publication being opted in, to copy from an EPUB, so an e-publication, a digital source. And obviously, many of you will want to link to that source just because it's a lot easier. But this is, again, another item in your toolbox that you can use if you like. It's complementary to primary licenses. Why might you want to do that rather than link? Well, you might have a primary license that doesn't have the number of simultaneous user access privileges that you want. If it's a really esoteric publication, you might be worried that it comes down, so you've then got permanent access to it, subject to the terms and conditions of the license. And if you did primary licenses, you might also want to make a copy under that primary license. Sometimes the CLA license is more generous, and there is a certain amount of consistency with the CLA license. So it's always the permissions are always the same. So a few things to bear in mind, and now of course it's complemented by Born Digital in the DCS. So just something to bear in mind. It's another tool to remember that you have, and again, any questions at all, please let us know. I'm very happy to take questions, but on any of these things, or indeed anything else, but perhaps wait till the end of the session. Is that a good idea? End of the wider session. So thank you very much. I hope that was useful.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sarah. Okie dokie. Imogen, I'm going to start sharing my screen now, if that's okay. Everyone bear with me a moment. Right. Thumbs up. Can everyone see my screen okay? Lovely stuff. Thank you. Right, so I'm going to go through some frequently asked questions that we get about using the DCS. So hopefully everyone finds these helpful. These are some of the most common queries we get. So whether or not you're new to using the DCS, or if you just like a bit of a refresher on these questions, hopefully you find this helpful. Right, to start with, I'm going to go with this question. Can I change the ISBN or the ISSN for a particular record? So unfortunately, it's not possible to do this on the DCS. This is because with records, the ISN, so the ISBN or the ISSN, is at the top of the hierarchy for the record. All the other bits of information, all the other bits of metadata spring from that ISN. So it's not possible for us to change the ISN of a record on the DCS, because that is the fundamental character, if you like, of that record. So because of this, when you're processing requests, it's very important to make sure you're selecting a record with the correct ISN. So if you're using the academic request form, or if you're using a reading list integration, please make sure you double check that the ISN that's come through from the request matches the record that has come through on the DCS. So if we have a look here, so we can see this is a new request that's come through, and we want to make sure that we're checking that the ISBNs or ISSNs match before we go ahead and we proceed with the request. Because once we go to the stage where we go through with the request, it's not possible to go back and change the ISN. So we should have an instance here where, as we can see, the ISBNs don't match in this case. If you find that they don't match, what you want to do is you want to search on the extract section here, look for the correct ISN, and then assign that to the request. If you do that at this stage, then when you go ahead with your request, you won't need to go back and change anything, and that will be there, and that will be correct, and you can proceed as normal. Right, so another question that we get asked a lot is how do I know when my EHES order is ready? So you can review EHES orders, so there's a typo on there, but you can review EHES orders from the EHES section on the home page. The EHES section is at the very bottom of the screen. Will show you all the different statuses of your EHES orders. And these are, so the first one is EHES all. So this will show you all of the EHES, all the requests with an EHES order that are linked from the below 3 categories. So this is a cumulative section. And those 3 categories are order submitted. So these are all requests when there is an EHES order where you're awaiting a response from the British Library. But order cannot be fulfilled. So these are those requests with an order where the British Library have not been able to provide a scan for that particular order. Or lastly, awaiting HCI review, which are all those requests where the British Library has supplied a scan and all you need to do is go ahead and accept it or review it or whatever you need to do. So EHES all covers all 3 of those categories. And then there's one more section at the bottom as well, which is EHES open orders. This just shows all those requests where there are EHES orders that will prevent you from completing rollover. So this will include orders that can be found under order submitted and awaiting HCI review. If you do have any further questions about your EHES order, so say you submitted your EHES order, say a week ago, and you'd like to know when you can expect to receive it, we'd recommend contacting the British Library. So there's the email address for the British Library there. CLA aren't able to advise on the status of EHES orders once that's been submitted, that is with the British Library. So if you'd like an update on the status of a particular order, your best bet is to reach out to the British Library via this email address and they'll be able to help you there. Right, another question we've got here is when should I create a new record on the DCS? So you should create a new record whenever you can't find the record you're looking for on the DCS. So this includes situations where, say you're looking for a particular title and you found one edition on the DCS, but the one that you're making a digitization for is a different edition. That is a circumstance when you'll need to create a new record on the DCS for the edition you are going to use. So if the record you're creating has an ISN, once you create that on the DCS, that will try and match up with our check permissions database. So even if it isn't on the DCS already, if there is that unique identifier, then we'll check it against our check permissions database to return further information about whether or not it's covered under the terms of the license. If the title doesn't have an ISN or hasn't been added to the check permissions database, then you will need to manually override the permission status as you're going through the request journey. So that is just the case of when you get to the active request page, selecting the override option. If it hasn't been added to our check permissions database, then please do let us know. So you can contact us either via the email addresses that Sarah got up earlier, or again, if you want to contact us on our regular DCS support email address, please let us know until we can get that added to check permissions. So in the future, that will automatically come up as covered when you're next going ahead and creating a request for that title. So when you are searching for, so this is another instance of a new request that's come through. So please do make sure you're checking for the right kind of record before you go ahead and create a new one. So in this case, we are searching for a title that's come through as a book. And then we've flicked it to being an article, and then we found it come up here. So when you have a new request come through, you can use that toggle, click the toggle and then search again, and then you will receive results of a different type than the one you initially got from the request. So in this instance, we've received one from a book, we've toggled it to an article here, we search it again, then we'll see lots of results for journal articles instead. Right, and the last one here is how can I amend the details of a DCS request after publishing the link? So we're going to do a quick demo of this, but we're going to quickly walk through the principles of it first of all. First, you'll need to archive the request and then reinstate it. So the content will be inaccessible to students while you have archived the request. But if you've got the scan handy or you know what changes you want to make, then this shouldn't take longer than a couple of minutes. Once you're reinstating the scan, you'll be able to make the required changes. And then all you need to do is regenerate the link, and then that link will stay the same as it was before you went ahead and made the changes. So if you've already got the link on a reading list or on your VLE, you won't need to update it because the link will remain the same. Now, quickly to go over what you can change using this method. So you can go through and you can change the permissions and ownership status of a request using this method. You can also change the page range of the request. So that's what we're going to be doing on the demo, show you how to go ahead and do that. And you can also change the scan you are using. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump out of the slides now. Bear with me a moment. Lovely. Okay, so we are now on the demo DCS site. So let me actually just quickly close the slide here so we don't have that thing at the bottom. There we are. Right, so we're now on the demo version of the DCS. So this is the request we're going to be looking at here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to change the page range for the scan. So say this is a request, you've very recently processed it, you just generated the link, and then the academic say reaches out to you and says, oh, actually, I want pages 50 to 60 instead. So you can go ahead and do that. Firstly, you'll need to archive the request. So to do that, let's grab the request ID. And then if we go to the dashboard, so I've got one already open here, just search for the request ID here and click go. So bear with me, everyone. Just need to refresh my page, I think. There we go. I was too prepared. I think it'd been sitting open for too long. Bear with me a moment. There we are. Apologies for that. Okay, so let's search for the request ID here. Click go. So you'll be able to see the request come up here. You'll see the course it's linked to at the top. So the first step is just to archive the request by clicking archive here. So once that's been archived, so at this point in time, the link is no longer accessible to anyone who will be clicking it. Immediately, you just need to click reinstate here. And this will take you back to the request page. So as you can see, you can't actually change the page range up here. To change the page range, you have to upload the new scan. So I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But while you are here, you can select different override options here for the ownership status and also for the permission status. So let's go down to source content. So let's click add new document. So this is how you go about updating the page range. So let's just enter the information about the new scan. And let's put in, let's go 60 to 70. Select choose file. Just grab one here. Again, we're on the demo site, so we can be nice and loose with what we're uploading. Click upload. And it will come up with a pop-up here saying you have updated the page range associated with the file. And doing this will also update the page range of the request. You want to confirm that you're happy to do that. So once that's been uploaded, and you can see here, there's now a star here to indicate it's an exact match. That's because uploading this file has updated the page range for the request as well. Let's just click select and then generate link. And this link is the exact same link that the request had before you went and did this process. So if you need to update the page range for a particular request, you can do that here. And the last thing, actually, I wanted to very quickly show you. So during our last webinar, we asked questions about updating the announcement section of the dashboard. So this is something we had to wait to do because we had a slight issue linking to the knowledge base for all the previous links. But I've managed to get this done literally just before this webinar. So if we jump over to the actual live DCS page, I don't know if anyone is particularly attentive and they spotted this before the webinar, but this is now a lot cleaner. So thank you, everybody, for letting us know that you wanted to see this tidied up. So hopefully this is a lot more nice and neat. So the next time you're on the DCS, you're not encountered with, in remembrance of lost time or anything like that. Lovely. Okay, so that's it for me for frequently asked questions on the DCS. We're now going to open up for a Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat.
Spotted your updated dashboard, Cameron. It looks very clean. Well done. Oh, question about CFPs. Feel free to ask the question. Oh, here we go. Right, copyright-free page, copies of material. There used to be a page on the CLA website which gave a list of the different places to source copyright-free page copies. Usually the British Library or NLS is able to help, but there are other places. The page isn't there anymore, but can anyone point to this? Sarah?
Yes,
You look
you're,
think
you yes. Thank you
so
for the question. You're absolutely right. Yes, it did used to be there, and
I think this might be. I'll have to double check this and I'll send it in the follow-up after the call. But if you're referring to the page, I think you are, Rona. I think this is now on the DCS knowledge base. So we've got that list on there now. So let me double check after the webinar, make sure it is what you are looking for, and then I'll send it over to everyone who's registered afterwards.
Thanks, Cameron. That should be also on the website somewhere. It might have been a casualty of our rebrand, so I think that should be. So if you could, yeah, let me know when you check that.
Sure, I'll have a look afterwards. I won't. I'll save everyone the
Yes.
having to watch me have a look for it now. But I'll have a look after the webinar, and if it's yeah, and if it's what you're referring to, Rona, I'll get that sent out after the webinar. But if not, we can have a look at getting it added to the website.
Lovely, thank you both. Anything else that people wanted to check or ask, or no?
While people might be typing, I will just take this moment very quickly to let everyone know that we do have sites coming up soon. So on the 2nd of November, so that'll be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to have a 2-hour break in the middle. Some of the topics include AI, accessibility, copyright, and also some general CLA DCS updates. I've got the link here. Obviously, we'll send this the copy of the slides out after the webinar, so you'll be able to actually click the link. Or if anybody wants to try and type that out from on the screen, they're more than welcome to. But yeah, it's looking to be a really great event, so highly recommend anyone who's here sign up if you haven't already.
Link in the chat if you could scoop it up if you've got that open. And then in the meantime, Kim has asked, yes, you're absolutely right. Last time we met, I talked about 3 sort of bigger, longer term improvements that I was hoping to take forward. So yes, that was copyright fee page, chapters, EPUB, and something else. Anyway, we went to try and get the resources to move them forward, but actually they've been put on pause because some of you might be aware that, and this is related to the data cleanup, we're going to prioritize just performance and trying to make sure that the platform as a whole does what it does currently as well as it possibly can and as well as it used to before we start building new functionality. So still want to do it, but I don't have any update because we're just going to prioritize trying to get the performance absolutely working flawlessly before we go further. QR code, cunning.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think I'll have to have a look to see about how we can get one of those generated. But I will be sending this out. Don't worry. I don't think I was joking when I said about typing it out. So please, nobody actually feel the need to do that. But yeah, we'll send this link out after the webinar so people can go ahead and register.
We can type it in the chat. There it is.
Great. Thank you.
Another anything else? Cool. Okay, well, if anybody has any other questions, type them in or raise your hand so that we don't accidentally cut you off. Otherwise, I think we've probably got through everything, in which case, thank you very much for coming and we'll see you next time. Cameron, anything else that you want to add?
No, I think that's everything for me. Yeah, no, thank you everyone for attending. So yeah, we'll be sending out invites to the next webinar shortly. But yeah, everyone take care and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thanks, folks. Bye.
Bye-bye.